In the far south of Ethiopia, there is a community where every gesture has a purpose, and every task defines a person's place within the group. Here, in the Omo Valley, the day begins before the sun and ends long after the last ember fades. Today, we follow the routine of the Hamar tribe. From hunting to food preparation, from caring for children to preparing for a ritual that may change a young man's destiny. And before we continue, if this kind of documentary holds your attention, subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Before the heat arrives, the village is already in motion. Among the Hamar, time is organized by tasks. Women begin preparing food, men plan the day's movements, and children observe, learning through practice. Every activity keeps the balance of the group. Hunting among the Hamar is not daily, but when it happens, it demands coordination and silence. No wasted movement, no wasted energy. Before leaving, the men check simple tools and choose a direction. Meanwhile, in the village, food preparation continues, keeping stability even in their absence. Far from the village, the hunt begins on the ground. No running, only observation. Small marks in the dust reveal direction, weight, speed. Experience replaces any instrument. At the same time, food is already shared in the village. Before noon, every child must eat. Internal order sustains the absence of the men. At noon, heat reshapes priorities. The hunt slows. Conserving energy becomes essential. Every step must justify the effort. In the village, rhythm changes too. Work moves into the shade, and quiet tasks replace the morning's movement. As heat fades, the hunt resumes. Time is short. Pushing forward may mean food. Pushing too far may mean wasted strength. Experience weighs more than haste. In the village, afternoon reorganizes tasks. Wood is gathered, tools prepared. The day is not over yet. Among the Hamar, a rite of passage does not come suddenly. Days before, the village begins to reorganize. The young man who will cross the cattle's backs must show he already carries adult duties. Caring for animals, accepting responsibility, standing by decisions. Nothing is announced aloud, but everyone knows the moment is near. And if you enjoy this kind of real immersion, Subscribe to follow the next episodes in the Omo Valley. The Hamar rite of passage, known as Ukuli Bula, depends on collective organization. The cattle are aligned side by side, forming a continuous surface. Relatives help keep the animals steady. The young man must not fall. If he fails, he must wait another cycle. Community approval begins before the first step. Before the jump, there is no visible rehearsal. The young man's body is prepared carefully. Clean skin, hair and pigment renewed, ornaments reduced so nothing catches. Men check the cattle line and their grip on the animals. Women watch closely. It is also a social judgment. In the Ukuli Bula, the young man crosses a line of cattle with fast, controlled steps. The line must remain steady, and men hold each animal firmly to prevent movement. Silence surrounds the moment, helping keep balance and order. In the Ukuli Bula, a single crossing is not enough. The young man must repeat the path across the cattle, usually 4 times in sequence. The action proves endurance, balance, and self-control. If he falls, the process stops. Approval depends on completing the full sequence. When the young man completes the sequence without falling, the act becomes a social fact. He is recognized as an adult. Among the Hamar, this changes duties and expectations, caring for cattle, taking part in clan decisions, and assuming responsibility. The ritual is public because validation is collective. After the Ukuli Bula, there is no exaggerated celebration. The transition is acknowledged naturally. The young man begins to sit among adult men, listening to conversations about cattle, family alliances, and seasonal movements. Among the Hamar, status is not announced. It is shown in daily life, starting that very night. The next morning brings no rest. The new adult joins the herd at dawn. Among the Hamar, caring for cattle begins early. guiding the herd toward pasture, observing the animal's condition, and controlling distance. The change of status is confirmed through practice, not ceremony. Although cattle are central, the daily food base of the Hamar includes sorghum and maize. Part of the harvest comes from small cultivated areas near the river, depending on seasonal floods. The grain is dried, ground, and cooked into thick porridge or simple dough. Preparation requires time and cooperation between women and children. Hamar organization is based on clans and male lineages. Everyday authority rests with older men, but practical decisions involve the extended family. Marriages create alliances, and the number of cattle influences agreements. Within the village, each household works independently, but remains connected to the group. Among the Hamar, the body communicates belonging. The use of red clay mixed with fat protects the skin from the sun and marks identity. Hairstyles indicate age and social position. Caring for hair and skin is not vanity. It is cultural continuity passed between generations. The Hamar do not remain in one place all year. The availability of pasture and water guides small seasonal movements. Before moving the herd, men observe the soil, vegetation height, and signs left by other groups. The decision is practical. Protecting the animals guarantees stability for the clan. In the Omo Valley, water defines the calendar. Small seasonal streams and wet areas determine where the herd can stay longer. During dry periods, the walk to water becomes longer. Management is not centralized. Each family calculates distance, effort, and return. During the dry season, pasture loses density and movement increases. The hamar avoid concentrating the herd in one place, so the vegetation is not exhausted. Young men guide smaller groups, spreading pressure across the land. Effort is calculated each day. Distance, available shade, and the condition of the animals. Although herding sustains the economic base, hunting appears as a food supplement. It is not daily or central. Small groups leave quietly at dawn, looking for smaller animals. The goal is extra protein, not a display of skill. The practice is direct and practical. Knowledge among the hamar is not taught in a separate system. Children learn by observing and repeating. Herding, food preparation, fire management, and household organization are absorbed early. Autonomy grows gradually, along with age and responsibility. Among the hamar, marriage involves negotiation between families. Cattle play a central role in these alliances, acting as a guarantee of commitment. The union is not only individual, it reorganizes responsibilities between clans. Conversations may last for days, guided by older men, while women evaluate practical aspects of the new family. Disagreements exist, especially over cattle or grazing limits. Among the hamar, resolution is usually internal. Older men listen to both sides and seek proportional compensation. Avoiding rupture is essential, because survival depends on continuous cooperation. Beyond major rituals, the hamar maintains smaller practices that reinforce belonging. Body scar patterns may indicate stages of life or personal experiences. Necklaces and bracelets are not only decorative, they communicate family position and marital status. Identity is visible even before formal introductions. At dusk, the rhythm slows. The herd gradually returns to the enclosures, and outside tasks give way to internal organization. Food distribution, childcare, and checking the animals mark the end of the day. If you enjoy this kind of daily life documentary and value deep portrayals of real cultures, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're watching from. During the night, some men remain alert around the herd. In drier periods, any loss directly affects survival. Scarcity does not arrive suddenly. It appears in longer walks and accumulated fatigue. As the dry season advances, vegetation loses volume and nutritional value. The herd must walk farther to find usable areas. This reduces time for other tasks and increases daily exhaustion. Evaluation becomes corrective rather than preventive. When pasture does not recover, the solution is not to insist in the same place. The Hamar usually test alternatives before moving the entire village, sending a small group, checking water, shade, and herd return. If the path works, relocation becomes logistics. The return of the scouting group brings more reliable information than any discussion. Dust on legs, time spent, herd condition, and the presence, or absence, of water show whether the route is worth the effort. For the Hamar, collective decisions rely on simple signals, what the body and the herd reveal. When change becomes unavoidable, it begins without ceremony. Essentials first: water, fire, containers, tools. Then the herd. Among the Hamar, the priority is cohesion, children and animals at the center of movement. The Great Migration is not escape, it is territory management during the dry season. Guiding a migration requires more than walking ahead. It means adjusting the pace to the slowest animal, anticipating extreme heat, and deciding the exact moment to stop. For the newly initiated adult, this journey becomes a silent evaluation of judgment and responsibility. the group reaches a new area, the first step is not building shelters, but observing. The quality of the soil, usable vegetation, and access to water determine how long the group can remain. The decision to move does not end on arrival. It continues through careful evaluation. Validation appears quickly. Cattle grazing calmly again, less dust in the air, and moisture returning to the ground. This does not mean the end of the dry season, only a window of stability. For the group, the move was a calculated adjustment. For the new adult, it is a visible result of responsibility. After the move, priorities are rebuilt. A place for the fire, resting areas, and boundaries for the herd. Social structure remains the same, only shifted in space. For the new adult, this transition strengthens responsibility, now participating more directly in collective decisions. In the new territory, routine quickly reorganizes. The herd finds pasture, water is carefully managed, and the fire once again marks the center of the group. For the Hamar, movement does not mean rupture. It means adaptation to the land. If you value documentaries that respectfully portray real cultures, subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are watching from. Between migrations and returns, Hamar life does not follow a fixed calendar. It responds to the land. As long as there is cattle, territory, and community, the cycle will continue. This video is a visual and narrative recreation created with the support of artificial intelligence for educational and entertainment purposes. The scenes are illustrative representations.